Yeah.
Rob's going to make a nice giant cough into the mic, but yeah, go ahead, Stu.
It's funny you say that, because when Rob and I were walking on the palatial estate, we did see some vandals ruin the property as always. We have this really nice plush thing of grass that we have set up, and as Rob,
Are we a couple? Is this
Sorry?
what's happening? Because I feel like the last few weeks we've transitioned to like now living together and co-owning this place.
I'm just saying, there's an east wing and a west wing, and there's a
I'd
lot
be
of
okay with it.
He's the house manager, like in Bel Air.
There's a lot of people on this palatial estate, and I'd like to think that Rob, being an Alfred-like quality of you, being able to just get things done, these are things that are admirable. You are what I would like to call the wolf in my life. Just you call and just get stuff done. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
Not that I needed a wolf situation that day, but we're walking by the grass. We noticed that it was stained. Again, who would vandalize this beautiful piece of grass? Walk by, and I think Rob went, why would someone write, please allow me to introduce myself? I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for so long years. Stole a million man's soul and faith. So I think that's trying to say something about moi. I just don't know what that's about, Rob. Do you have any ideas as to what that means?
I feel that the vandal in question is likely trying to be introspective by way of a puzzle box.
It's true. It's a V for Vanis. It is a question wrapped in an enigma. It goes by many names. He goes by many names. But we'll one day hopefully wrap it. So if those of you on the internet can figure out what it is, let us know. We appreciate it. Always looking for tips on the tip line. So just send in your tips and your theories, and the reward will be out there if you can let us know who this vandal is. So thank you, everyone, for joining us to the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dupay. With me, as always, is one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. That'd be Mr. John Ho. Please say hello.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
And by our resident man of mischief, a variant of unknown origin, Mr. Rob Cadet.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Stu, John, how are you guys?
All right. All right. John, you?
Yeah, I'm good. I ain't got no time to die.
Okay, but you got time for bad jokes.
Hey,
you guys want to know what happened to me? A couple weeks ago, I had my pool liner installed, and I finally got to use it. And the humidity has been amazing, which I love. I love the fact that if it's so hot, senior citizens are at risk. That's my type of humidity. I love that weather. However,
keep grandma, grandpa at home.
That's right. However, it played funky with my pool, and now I'm in the midst of a
bacterial outbreak.
What?
Is that outbreak in the pool?
Yeah. It's so I'm in the middle of a battle with it right now, trying to get it under control, get it back to its pristine, crystal clear like water condition. But
do you not just add a bottle of bleach? Is there more advanced techniques in pool economics? No.
Why do I spend all this money with a pool store tech when I could just? Hey, John, is it Clorox or do I have to?
You gargle with it, right? That's what a very high up person said.
I'm sure it'll help
just
the algae.
Inject it into your body.
That's right.
Good.
I thought, John, you're going to say just throw some Robitussin at it, and I can tell you.
Tussin. You can get some Tussin.
A couple Alka-Seltzers, plop, plop, fizzle, fizzle. It's all better, buddy.
Yep. All right, here we go. We are here. Let's get that out of that. Talk about another dire situation that has felt on the internet. The most popular film currently on Hulu. Get our thoughts out on the sensation as Prey. This is a movie that directed by one of the people. It's crazy that Dan Trachtenberg directed this movie because I remember listening to the Totally Rad Show. He was a podcast host back in the day. So this guy was on doing podcasts.
He was one of us.
Directing it. Yeah,
Totally Rad Show. That's awesome name.
Totally Rad Show, John. So my first question to you. Shout outs to Dan and on the Totally Rad Show. If you could have a chance to direct a feature film and a franchise, years from now, John, you get popular enough to get your say, what movie would you direct?
Oh man,
What
I think
franchise
I
would
have.
you do?
Do I probably have to go with a movie that I know the most about, that I know inside and out. So give me Bad Boys 6 or 7, whatever number they're going to be on at the time. I'll have to help Will Smith on his comeback.
Wow. Rob, same question?
Superman.
Oh, you aiming high. Who's your
Are you casting Cavill?
No, I
Army Hammer?
No, I think he's currently busy. No.
He'll be free by then. Maybe.
Yeah, true. He will be free by then. He'll still
He's very cheap.
Let me look at his calendar. Yep, still free.
It's just free. There's just a big brick of free time.
Just unlimited.
Thursday's Smokehouse Eatery. What's up with that?
Yeah. Totally just free. So yeah. Anyway, so here we go.
What would you do? You have a franchise. What would you do?
Man, that's a great question. I would have to go to the one that's probably
Harry Potter? Bring it back?
at that point it would probably have to be Fantastic Beasts, because that franchise is dead in the water. So I think I probably
floating in the pool.
Yeah, it's not getting back up. I would probably pick yeah, you're right. I would pick something that no matter what I did, it'd be better than the previous incarnation. So yeah, I guess it would have to be Fantastic Beasts, because there's nothing more atrocious than the last movie. That movie.
How about like a sports oriented movie just about Quidditch? Like your whole like a Rudy underdog story.
I hate
Quidditch. No? Oh, I think it's
actually the real life Quidditch nerds that play have renamed their sport because they want to be disassociated with.
Oh,
so
they're hardcore into this, and then they're like, "Oh shoot, that last thing was."
We got to change the name. Yeah. There's in New York, it's a big scene, a Quidditch league and whatnot, but they've renamed themselves because they wanted nothing to do with.
Is it Ultimate Quidditch? Did they rename it to Ultimate?
I don't know what it is. I'll have to take a look at it afterwards. But let's talk about Prey, because we're going to go over. It has been hugely reviewed on the positive fresh side, 92% on the fresh review and 79% audience score, which is crazy, but many people like it. It's one of those movies that, like we said before, it's coming off a lot of bad Predator franchise movies. It started at its peak back in the day with Predator 1 in 1987. Then there's Predator 2 in 1990. Predators, which is a forgotten film of 2010. There was The Predator, the very forgotten 2018 Shane Black film that had a bunch of controversies. And then now Prey, which is 2022. So this
where does AVP slide in? Is it between
Predators
and Predator 2?
Great question. AVP was 2004, yeah, and Requiem was 2007, which was basically just
so that gap in between, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a gap. I think
it's in between Predator 2 and Predators.
Yeah. And the news, yeah.
Yeah, I think from a meme factory, nothing will ever replace the quotes and the memes of Predator, because it's still to this day all over the internet. But it kind of fell off after Shane Black, so it was a good opportunity for them to do a soft reboot, which is this, and go back to this roots. So it's released. So John, without ruining the movie, give us your just small thoughts on this. This is a period piece movie of a Native American tribe. It stars Amber Midthunder as Naru, a young Comanche warrior trying to protect her tribe and trying to gain respect within her tribe. So kind of give us your thoughts on this one, because it kind of blew up and got a standing ovation in Comic-Con, and I was hyped on the chat to watch this movie. Yeah. So when I saw it, I was like, I wanted to get your thoughts. And then also, before we go there, did you watch it in Comanche or did you watch it in English?
Yeah, so I couldn't find the setting for some reason. I don't know if maybe some of the apps aren't optimized for PlayStation. I watch a lot of my stuff on my PlayStation, so maybe it just wasn't one of the selections, or maybe I just picked the wrong. So I had to watch.
Were you on Disney Plus?
Yeah. I was on Disney Plus, but the interface for the PlayStation is not the greatest. So maybe it didn't have the selection, because I did look for it at one point and it wasn't
User issue.
You did try
Crave had a whole thing where you couldn't turn on subtitles on the Crave app.
No, it's not. It's a dub. You just have to go to extras, and there was Comanche dub.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't look. Yeah, but it was dubbed. It's considered dubbed in Comanche in the original
User issue.
Anyways, I watched it in English.
You watched it in English, yes.
Yeah. I feel like when they first announced this, and then they announced it was going straight to Hulu, we were kind of not necessarily funning on it, but I think we weren't taking it seriously. We were like, oh, straight to streaming, prequel. Who asked for this because of the kind of trash movies that the franchise has turned into. But I did sit down and watch it. I actually am really sad that this didn't get a theatrical release, because right around now there's not much in the theaters. Like I think we were talking about Bullet Train earlier, and I feel like that's it, unless you want to go see Top Gun Maverick for the third or fourth time. So it would have been nice to see this in theaters, and I think it would have really shone and given the people involved in it a little bit more going on. But like you said, that the fact that you can watch it in Comanche or English or whatever language you want now, and more people maybe are going to see it is something that can be kind of weighed in the balance.
Okay, but John, would you have gone to the theater based on the pre-release hype? Would that have spurred you to go to the theater to see it?
I don't think until it hit and people started praising it, and then people, like, I think you said the article was like second best Predator movie and all that kind of stuff. I don't think I would have bought that ticket until after I heard that or saw some of the clips or some of the interviews online. Because like you said, when something gets announced going straight to streaming that is formerly a big blockbuster type franchise, you're kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it to most people, unless you don't. I think a lot of this movie is kind of silent. So unless that kind of turns you off, then maybe watch it in parts or something like that. But yeah, I enjoy it.
Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah. So if I had my shoe here, I would cover it with whipped cream and some sprinkles, and I would eat it, because much like John, I was like, you know what? This sounds like a really weird thing. And to be honest with you, I really thought this was something that was greenlit right around the time of the merger or buyout of Fox through Disney.
It was.
And I was like, they're right just gonna like produce this thing and dump it on streaming, a la New Mutants, because nobody's gonna give a shit and everything else like that. And I actually kind of forgot about it. I remember reading the synopsis or before they started filming and what it was about, and I was like, this whatever, man. Like, you just put I might have even been in one of our shows being like, just put it to bed. It's done. This franchise is done. Wow. Again, give me my shoe with sprinkles and cherries, whipped cream on top, because this thing, I was completely surprised and floored. I had heard good things coming out of Comic-Con, but admittedly, it was Stu and his hype that was kind of like, for me, ramping it up. I'm like, this might be really good. And then you started getting some of those pre-release reviews kind of happening, and I wasn't reading reviews. I don't read the reviews, but I'll see the headlines, and I'm like, what? Seriously, there's some buzz on this thing? I sat down with my son, and because I showed him the original Predator, so I sat down with him and we watched it together. And it wasn't like one of those things where it's like he was on his phone looking. Like, he was kind of enraptured by it. We both were really like tuned in and dialed in. So I'm a big fan of this movie. I don't necessarily. I think it gets not filmed for streaming. So what I mean is that if it was playing in theaters, it looks like a theatrical release. But that being said, I don't think it would have done the business in theaters, and therefore it made sense to go straight to streaming. If you have not seen it, you were sleeping on this movie. It is an hour and 40 minutes. I'm telling you, it's worth your time to watch this movie.
It is an experience. Yeah. Did you find? Did you find Rob, that listening to it? You talking about it, did you find it jarring to hear it in a different language? Like, what was your perspective on it?
Who'd you ask that to?
Rob, because we know John didn't listen to it, and did you listen to it?
I did not listen to it. I did not watch it in Comanche. I've only seen it the once. I actually really do intend to. I will watch it again in Comanche. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, even the English version has Comanche in it, right? Like they
Oh yeah, but
it.
but it's neither here nor there. So yeah,
I only watched it in Comanche. I'm like,
did
this
you
is
really? Eh?
this is the only way I know this film is in Comanche. So it's
Wow.
that in French. So like, oh, it's like when I was like, okay, cool. Like I went going in with just like the feeling of RRR, which is now our second most viewed podcast of all time.
Fantastic film.
With that reverence of, you know what? I'm going to listen to it in the language that it was intended in. It's just in terms of just they wouldn't speak English. So I just want to know what that experience is. So I watched it fully in Comanche. My wife and I watched it, and we just super enjoyed that experience. We watched it first, and we watched the beginning of it. Because funny, when you watch the beginning, you don't even know whether it's English because the first
Right.
silent until Naru starts speaking, and you're like, oh wait. So I had to go in and figure the settings out, and I was googling. It's like, oh, it's in extras. So I went in, and then we watched it in Comanche. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna watch it in English. As far as I'm concerned, it's only in Comanche.
So you seem to be watching a lot of movies in different languages. So I'm assuming you've now canceled your Duolingo subscription and you're just strictly watching movies in different languages.
I'm now, if there's an opportunity to watch the film or television show in its native language, I will watch it in the native language. So
it's known for you.
Yeah, like I think that like when I watch Korean TV shows, I'm watching Korean, like Squid Game. It was Korean. When I watch RRR, it was that's a dub, but like I would like to go and watch it in Tamil. Like I'm gonna go back and like when we talked about Das Boot, like I watch it in German. Like I don't even know that there's an English one. People are like, oh yeah, the English version. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I feel like it's just a nice way to understand and ingratiate yourself in the culture. But yeah, no, I totally dug what they did. I kind of know that they would have ideally loved to film all the characters speaking the language, but it is difficult because Amber I don't think speaks that's not her native language, so she doesn't speak Comanche. So so I do know there's some logistics, but at the same time,
I can't believe that you watched Conan in Sumerian. That to me was surprising.
I don't think I would have been able to survive without the subtitles. So, like, I got to give it up to Netflix.
Which is really funny because when I was like, it was just like a lot of A's and R's and G's.
Man, you don't even know what it's like to watch The Exorcist and without the subtitles. A lot of Latin and a lot of demon tongue. It's very confusing. John, what do you give this film out of 10?
So this movie always bases off of expectations and whether delivered or not. It gets a 10 out of 10. Like, how do you not give this a 10 out of 10? I think this is very well put together, very true to kind of its source materials and bringing it forward. And the performers are really good. I think almost like everybody, even the stunt guy who had to wear that Predator suit. So yeah, I have to give it a 10 out of 10.
That guy's a former basketball player. So yeah, he's basically your Bo Cruz, John.
Bo Cruz. I know he had to wear the prosthetic. That the prosthetic is on top of his head, which is crazy, and it's animatronic. So that's why.
He's a former professional basketball player who played all around the world. He's 6'9". I think he has 7-foot arm wingspan. So he slowly transitioned into being like these type of characters, aliens and monsters and stuff. So yeah, there he is. Okay, Rob, what do you give this bad boy out of 10?
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
And that leaves myself. I'm going to give this movie a 9. I really appreciated it.
Damn it! If I give it a 9,
are you rating it, or are you just trying to match Stu's score?
I think the low budget, the way that it was filmed, just all the logic of that universe worked out. It may not be as crap crazy as Predator 2. I recently rewatched Predator 1, 2, Predators, and The Predator, and each one kind of escalates it in craziness, and I feel like this kind of brought it back to the essence of like a character, and there's a lot of similes of like, this is Ellen Ripley. It's just a person who's an underdog, and this underdog has to fight a very difficult force. And I enjoyed all the things that she kind of went through her journey, and the her basically confidence, is bravado to basically keep on pushing. Even everyone, including her brothers, like, you should stop this. She's like, no, man, I got to keep on going. So I appreciate a lot of that, and I'm a sucker for a dog. So there was a good dog in this film. So that bumped up my 0.5, right, Rob?
There you go, buddy.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna go spoilers because there's a lot to spoil in this film.
But there's not.
There is. There is.
There is. Yeah.
John, because we're at a spoiler time. At your list, John. What's your list?
Yeah. So there was. I need to give it a second watch. I was gonna come up with like the funnest kills that they had in this, but I didn't have time to go back and go through all of them.
Wait, did you
every
say
time
funnest?
Funnest, yeah, the funnest thing that they did with killing people in this, if that makes any sense. But I'm gonna choose the three things that really kind of helped make this movie for me. Number three is the shrinking net. So I picked one kill. So the net, we've seen it pop up a couple times in these Predator movies, but this is definitely the best execution. A guy gets caught in it, and it just basically tightens and retracts into a ball, and they don't have to show it, which is great. You just know that guy died horribly. So that's fun, and that goes along with the just whole creative ways to kill horrible people in this movie.
Well, I think, John, you mentioned it. Like in horror, especially, the way you kill someone is not to show them die. It's just basically let the imagination flow. It's like you scream, and then just blood appears, and your imagination will make it worse than anything you put on.
They totally could have showed it. Could have showed them get turned into like meat slices or whatever, but they didn't. So maybe there's going to be a super unrated cut or something like that. No. But I think they did it perfectly with this one, and I think they did a good job with all of them. Number two is going to be the Predator himself. I thought it was really well done. This version of the Predator, I know some people are kind of criticizing it. Maybe he looks different than the one that they're used to. Some of them don't like the bone helmet or whatever. I thought he looked really good. He looked really menacing. And I was a little concerned with all the invisibility at the beginning. I'm like, oh man, I feel like we've advanced past technology that we don't really need to see this guy invisible. But the payoff when they start to see him and his cloaking starts crumbling, the first scene is like he's gutting the bear and the blood is just flowing on top of him, revealing him, and then later his suit gets kind of glitchy with the fire and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was a really, really good payoff. And the cherry on the cake is the fact that you could pull Predator out of this movie and still have a fantastic movie. So it's kind of like they just happen to have this movie and they're like, hey, let's just drop Predator in. And then number one is got to be Amber Midthunder in the lead role, doing so many things. Stu mentioned the Comanche version, the language of this movie. And I think the director in interviews I heard made her do scenes basically 3 times, one in English, one in Comanche, and one completely silent. And I'm like, that's a lot to put. She's, I think, a young actress, like 25 or something. I think I've seen her around in Banshee and Longmire, like really young. So I don't think she has a lot of credits to her name. So the fact that she could,
Banshee, Longmire, the originals, Legion, Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, Legion, yeah, Legion's the other one. Yeah,
she'll also be in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
the M. Night Shyamalan one?
no, the Netflix TV show that's coming.
The new one, yeah, okay, the new one, yeah. So that hasn't come out yet.
They're being developed by Daniel Day Kim, so that's
okay, yeah. But shout out to her. I think she really made this movie. The fact that she could do so many of these scenes with just a look in like her eyes and stuff like that, like definitely just was a joy to watch and a joy to follow her story, which is almost like a sports movie-ish type coming of age type thing. So she definitely won the movie for me, and I look forward to watching it again.
It's funny you say that, John, because the gimmicks from this film, now that I've mentioned it, the blood pouring down, that was in another Predator film, and I think that this movie goes back to the Jaws philosophy. Jaws is just quietly in the background. He's menacing, and bigger and bigger and bigger. You don't show him all the time, but when he does show up in full, you're like, oh my God, it's Jaws. And when you, as Rob can attest, as you go farther and farther in Jaws movies, the more often he shows up, the less menacing he is. And that's the Predator films too. It's like Predator is awesome when you don't see too much of him, and when he does show up, you're like, holy crap. this is awesome. It's, I guess the same could be said for Boba Fett. We don't want that much Boba Fett, as we discovered. We only want too much Boba Fett is a bad thing. So and I think that was indicative.
When you add too much, like you pour a little too much, like creamer in or whatever, you're like, oh, that was too much. Now the whole thing.
Like it's like, you know, pixie sticks seem like a good idea until you have 2 pixie sticks and mistakes are made.
You're like, oh god.
So as Rob could tell, giving his kids sweets, it's like maybe that second popsicle was a bad idea. It's I feel like this kind of brought back the scales and balance, which is why I kind of enjoyed it so much more. Is because I don't need the Predator every single second. But you see, when we look back, and because I remember those other Predator movies, they eventually are Predator, then fighting Predator, then bigger Predator, then smaller Predator, then they hunt in threes. I'm like, what?
Predator dogs, bro.
Yeah. That's the Predator. So the one right before this one, right?
2018.
Yeah,
I think
even
they were developing around the same time.
Yeah, Predators, the one with Adrian Brody, had multiple Predators.
I like that one.
Which well, it's not the worst of them, but Predator stuff with Shane Black, that was the one with the dog, and I think
that's the Predator. Yeah, he's got 2.
The Predator. Yeah, Predator. Predators is one with Adrian Brody. The Predators. Yeah, anyway.
As a scientist, and the most believable scientist since The World Is Not Enough. Denise Richards as Christmas Jones. Yeah,
it happens. It's fine. Rob, tell us, your spoiler-y thoughts.
You know what? So it's interesting because we talked about the fact at the beginning of this, we were like, fuck, another Predator movie before going in. We didn't really care too much about it. We've talked about the great acting by Amber Midthunder. As well as the guy Dakota Beavers, who played her brother. But I think we actually have to focus as well on the director, Dan Trachtenberg. So I was just taking a look. Like, this guy doesn't have a lot. I knew he had done 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was the Cloverfield sequel that nobody knew about, right? This is the one that with John Goodman, and it was like a surprise. It was like a sleeper release. And I actually remember quite enjoying it. But I took a look. This guy... he's only done those 2 movies, which is 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey. But in between that, he's directed an episode of Black Mirror with our boy Wyatt Russell, the video game one. And then he also did the first episode of The Boys. He directed the very first episode of The Boys.
Oh.
And so there is this sense of,
No, to your point, Rob, he's done some interesting things because he was supposed to do a lot of films, and they kind of he was supposed to direct Why the Last Man, and then he kind of just moved out of it. Kind of the right time, right place. 10 Cloverfield Lane, like he was, supposed to do Uncharted at one point, and then he was like, and he moved away quietly from that film too. So I think there was probably some creative difference. And that Uncharted made a lot of money, but was it a good film? No. And then that fan film he made was that short Portal film that everyone loved. Portal video game. Remember, kids, 2011, there was a video game called Portal. So to your point, Rob, he's kind of done a lot of. He's got some unique choices in his filmography. Yes.
Well, yeah, and so I feel like he's got this eye and this skill that feels kind of refreshing in a way, because I didn't realize he had directed that episode of Black Mirror, the playtest, and I remember being like really creeped out by that. But I thought it was filmed beautifully. I remember thinking I was like, wow, this is crazy the way it just looks. Which a lot of Black Mirror episodes are very, very good. Some of them are better than others. But that being said, I was like, wow, you just feel like this guy has grown as a director, and that he's confident in his shots and what he is setting out to do, and he's not trying to mimic other directors. I think he's just being himself, and that was a really refreshing take, because watching this is that he directed the scene. The cinematography I thought was really good, but he relied on the actors as well to convey the story, whether they were speaking or not. We talked about, and Stu at the beginning said like there's a long pause, like a lot, where there's like no talking. And like the last movie I remember that being a part of was There Will Be Blood. Like where a story is conveyed by the actors through their physical acting and emotions as opposed to the verbal. So I really, my tip of my hat to Dan Trachtenberg on this one, because I thought it was phenomenal. And I think that, I mean, I can't think of another director, like a known director, who I think could have pulled off this execution as well as he did. I thought that the fight scenes and the choreography were great. I thought that they were, I mean, listen, there are a lot more modern fight scenes than I'm sure that they really did fight back 300 years ago from now, but they weren't bordering on the absurdity of a John Wick. Not to say that John Wick's absurd, but let's face it, guys, Gung Fu is an absurd, as a ballet of fighting skills. This was, you know, it could have gone in that direction, and it kind of reined itself back a little bit, I thought. Second best use of a shield since Captain America. I mean, like the way that the Predator was using his shield, like there was a sense of familiarity with the movies that we've seen beforehand, and yet a sense of all new shit that we weren't expecting. And I was like, wow. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, the look of the Predator is stupid. Like when I first saw him, I was like, what the hell is this shit? And then I realized, like, we know that there's different Predators out there, but this is also 300 years from now. So it's 300 years of Earth time. Who knows how many thousands of years it is for their civilization to have evolved as well, right? So they have, like, it's the very basic rudimentary technology that we've seen in other movies. And I'm kind of glad he wasn't all decked out in 1987 and, you know, 1990 or whatever, 2018 Predator armor. I thought it was really cool that it was basic versus basic.
If you had one of those metal masks, I think
right.
Really weird.
So
yeah,
you know what? This was just a fun movie. It was one of those things where I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. I wasn't expecting for such a fresh take on the movie, on the character. And as we've said before, and we just said it here earlier, you don't even, like, it's a movie about, you know, with these actors that has a Predator in it. And sometimes those are the best movies. Do you know what I'm saying? No. Much like Winter Soldier. It's an espionage movie that just happens to have Captain America. So I highly recommend people go out and check out Prey.
It was, I enjoyed the fact that it was trying to be authentic to the culture of the Comanche people. You know, it was one of those films where, you know, I think one of the articles I was reading before, there weren't as many horses in the film originally, and one of the, I guess they're called culture consultants or whatnot, or experts, was like, this is the Comanche people. They lived with horses 24/7. You got to have a horse. So that led to that Dakota Beaver's like fight scene where he was jumping on that horse, because they are very comfortable. They are a people that are on, if you're in the Great Plains, like that's how you travel. So you, by birth, you know how to handle yourself on a horse. I appreciate the little nod when he was like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. I was like, perfect. That's what I want. I appreciated the, you know, John, when he said the beaver, like the bear and the blood, that was a nod to another Predator film. The gripe I had,
Her in the Mud.
Yep. Her in the Mud was another nice, great, like her doing the traps was very reminiscent of Arnold. I was just missing the, you know, the gif of all gifs of Dutch meeting up with Duke, you know,
you son of a bitch.
Like the arm thing, the slap where they just show the biceps, where it's like the meme of all memes, where there's the two giant guy, Apollo Creed and Schwarzenegger, just like bicep arm wrestling. So I missed that, but my one gripe was the gun. I'm gonna complain about the gun. My biggest complaint was at the end when the Predator's like, when the man gave her the gun, and that gun was the gun from Predator 2, and I'm like, okay, I guess, like, this is the way it is, fine. Because if you are a weird Predator person like I am, you know that they made a comic.
Which we should just say, we're just talking about in terms of the movies. He's not a weird Predator person for other things.
See what you will. The clicking and the noises. It could be anywhere. But there was a Predator comic where that was an actual pirate on the high seas, and he got trapped on an island. His crew revolts around him, and the Predator are stuck and work together and to kill off this crew of pirates. And for spoiler alert, that guy gives the gun to the Predator as like a token of appreciation. So I kind of like, oh, that's really cool. And then
turns and slices his head off.
No, because the Predators at the end of the day, like she said, they're honorable. Like when she was trapped, he's like, what the hell? This is not sporting to basically. That's the one thing about the Predator that of. That's the mythos, is that they're here to hunt prey. So if you have no weapon and you're not interested in fighting them, they're not going to kill you because there's no sport in fighting a creature that doesn't want to fight back. Although if you pick up a gun and point at it, he'll happily murder you. But if you run the other direction, he's not going to like just murder you for no reason. So it's just a matter of the moment you put arms against him, he'll do it. But if you just beeline the other direction, he just normally leaves those guys alone because you're a coward. So yeah, it's one of those things. So I did like the little thing at the end when the trailer at the end when they're showing all the native pictorial pictures of like what happened at the end when they see the alien ships come down. I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's how I guess they explain it. But still, it was a really enjoyable experience. I think I was a little too hyped because I heard of the standing ovation, but I think we were so starved for good Predator content that this was just something where like, wow, this is so happy that something like this exists. I don't know necessarily like where it lines with all the Predator films, and that will be one of my follow-up questions. But I was happy because we've been kind of overexposed in some of the other films. Like less is more, right? That's kind of how it is with Predator films. Like rewatching Predator 1, you really don't have that confrontation with the Predator till like the last 20 minutes of the film. Like I forgot until I watched it recently. I'm like, how much of that Delta team was basically that storyline until the last like 20 minutes, 15 is like Schwarzenegger and the Predator one-on-one, and you're like, oh, I thought that was longer in the movie. No, it's like
it's like halfway. I talked to a friend of mine who's a little bit older, and he says he remembers going to the movie theater, and this was the time of Rambo and those types of movies. So he's watching this movie just thinking it's a bunch of army dudes with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then all of a sudden this thing starts killing them. He was like, it was like the craziest thing ever back then. So imagine before internet spoilers, before like big.
I'm sure the trailer. If you saw the trailer back in that time period, but like to your point, John, it was the juxtaposition of like these are badasses in that time period, and then it flips the switch. Like now they're not the most badass creatures in the universe. This guy is. So I would like to know, I guess, Rob, from your experience with your son, did he know anything before watching Predator, or we went into it going, we're just going to watch this film? Did he? Because I can imagine if you knew nothing and you watch Predator 1, like to John's point, you'd be like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like this is nothing that you expected.
Well, I think, being my kid, he by osmosis, he understands. Like he's heard of the Predator.
It's in his DNA.
Right. He's heard of aliens. He hasn't seen Aliens yet. I don't think I've shown him Aliens yet. But like, so he knows about these movies. And this thing is a bit, I'm trying to remember if I had shown him Predator before Fortnite had released a Predator skin.
Oh, yeah,
I can't remember, right? So a couple of years ago, Fortnite had a Predator. So I was trying to remember while we were
he definitely played that.
Yeah,
that was like when I got into it, was that Predator skin. So you
guys but at any rate, but he enjoyed that movie, the original one. And he hasn't seen any others except for this one. So
for success then.
Yeah. So right now we're batting 100.
All right, let's go straight to it. John, Predator films. Which is the best Predator film? Because already we were in our pre-conversation. I was like, John, there's only one answer, and you're like, I think I have a hot take. I'm like, all right, let's get it. What's the best?
I might have a hot take. I want to choose this movie, but I don't think you have this movie. Might not work as well if we don't kind of know what the Predator is about and who the Predator is. So I think I got to go old school. And I think I'm going to give a hot take because we are going to be reviewing this movie in the upcoming Sidekick show. I kind of like Predator 2 better than Predator 1. It's kind of a blast. It's ridiculous. and very definitively a 90s movie. But I don't know. And I'm an Arnold guy.
My God.
The original Predator in my Arnold collection has probably got the least views out of all my.
What?
Yeah. Something about the pacing. The pacing, yeah.
And I could be a big complaint about Prey is that I know some people were basically saying in the beginning of the movie it's a little too slow. But
it's hard because it goes on streaming, right? Because if it's slow at the beginning on streaming, that's when your phone gets opened or you start like multitasking or whatever. So I think if I did find the beginning a little slow too as well. If I was in the theater though, I think I would have been totally immersed in this world. So I think the ranking for this movie went up.
Watching Comanche, so you can't look on your phone. Rob.
Yeah.
I have a hot take. The Predator. No. No.
When we went back and reviewed Predator 1, you had a hot take too, and you said Predator's kind of boring.
No, I didn't.
I think you
the
did.
Predator, probably the Predator with.
I think you said we had the Predator going up against Running Man, and you're like, hot take, kind of Predator's a little bit boring.
Well, compared to the Running Man, yeah, the Running Man is like nonstop ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think I remember saying something similar to what Stu said, in that I thought the Predator was in the movie a hell of a lot more, and I felt like it was a long build up to it until we got it. Mm-hmm. But I would say out of the series, I think the original is the best because it does play on to that Jaws type. You see something there. I mean, it really is a jungle version of Jaws, right? Right? If you've watched Jaws,
yeah, even the theme music is kind of.
But you're in the perspective of Jaws, looking up at the swimmers and this and that. Like you are, it is very very similar. So
if only Jaws had a thermal sensor.
Yeah, but it smells blood in the water, John. So
yeah.
So I would definitely go with the original 1987 movie is the better movie of this franchise.
And it's one of those things where Dylan and Dutch. I was like, why am I was blanking on names? But God, that movie, like watching it, I didn't realize that the voice of Optimus Prime was also the voice of the Predator. So I'm like, oh my God, it's Optimus Prime. So when I heard that movie again, I was like, I just kept on thinking Autobots roll out.
I think that's the rumor. They can't confirm it though. Like he made those clicking sounds. It's not like 100% confirmed.
As far as I'm concerned, it's Optimus Prime. But I think to your point, Rob, it is like it has all the warm, fuzzy feelings of an 80s action movie. Rewatching it was like all the tropes, all the jokes, all the stuff, and then the characters.
The characters are larger than life.
Like just the Delta team of you're like Dutch and Dylan and the guy that was who was it? It was like the heavy. It was like,
he's the guy who's like, I got time to die here.
I got time to bleed.
Yeah, I don't got time to bleed. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Cooper. There's like that guy is Billy the Tracker.
There's Billy, unfortunately not culturally represented properly.
That was a little rough. Yeah, there was Ramirez, the thing, and then there was Mac Elliott. Like there was a bunch of red. Like it was just like a perfect, this is a Delta team we've seen 1,000 times in this 80s movies, and for them all to get just to go in and just decimate an entire village. You're like, yeah, these guys are awesome, and then all of a sudden get their butts handed to them. You're like, wow. So
is there a stronger team of dudes, Stu? Would you say the Expendables maybe would beat them in a fight? I don't know.
Ooh.
As far as military badasses larger than life in movies.
I got it.
Is it that? Oh, what do you got? Tropic Thunder?
No. Navy SEALs, the movie with Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen loses every time. 2.5 Men loses to freaking the Governator every time.
As you're saying, Rob, with Mr. Bean. I just think that trifecta of Carl Weathers, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura. I think the three of those guys.
Yeah.
Stallone. What was it? Statham, and who's the third guy that's on that team? That's
Randy Couture and
it's not even
it doesn't quite work.
You pick them at their weathered point, and you had these guys at their pinnacle. It's not even close. Like you just picked up those 3 dudes and put them on versus the 3 best.
I'm trying to think of who like in more modern culture, like the guys from Black Hawk Down, maybe, but I feel like they're not as iconic. Even though wasn't Eric Bana in that movie, and he was like the cool guy who's like, oh, everyone's going home. He's like, I'm going back in.
Orlando Bloom was in that movie. Like,
well, he died in a second. Spoiler alert for Black Hawk Down.
Well, he lives on as an elf, so we're good. Yeah, let's keep on going. So I like Rob think that Predator is without a question the best film of the Predator.
Predator 2 is a fantastically fun movie.
It's not, John. I've rewatched it.
It is hilarious.
It's bad. It's bad on so many ways. There are lots of cameos of people I forgot they were in the movie, and I'm like, ooh, this acting's bad. And there's no way that like out of shape Danny Glover with his weapon could fight off a Predator.
Oh, he was ripped. He was ripped. They were kind of racist. They didn't let him take his shirt off. He took it off for a second, and you can see he's a pretty big guy.
The like the LA dystopian future, which basically is the you know that early 90s, like the world's gonna end. LA is not
Demolition Man. LA.
It's a little rough. It's a little rough. So one more follow-up question before we wrap this up, John. I know you mentioned it before. If you could throw a Predator in anywhere of history's timeline, throw them to fight somebody, or a pitch for a film, I guess that's what you're looking for, John. What would it be?
Yeah, the internet is buzzing about a samurai themed one, so I'm gonna leave that one out. That's definitely the number one choice. And I toyed around with the idea of a medieval one, but I think I'm gonna choose dropping a Predator in the Wild West, so he has to fight the cowboys. I think that would be hilarious with their 6 shooters kind of like showdown with the Predator at high noon. And go into your guys' favorite Western genre would be hilarious to see a Predator in a cowboy hat.
Rob, your pitch. What do you got?
I just because I think an iceberg is just a really shitty way to go. So I would throw the Predator into Titanic. And that's
kill everyone before the boat sinks.
That's the real reason it sank. Is that the
cover up.
It's
sinking as the cover up. He massacred
was
everybody.
so mad at that Rose wouldn't just shuffle over a little bit on that.
So it'd be DiCaprio versus the Predator. That'd be kind of. I'd watch that.
Wow. My choice would have to be another period piece in the authentic language of its time. It would be ancient Macedonia. And I'm just going to throw him with the actual 300 and just throw him
like
Spartans and be like, let's go.
That would be cool.
That'd be sick.
And again, Macedonian, Greek. I love whatever. My people out there is going to yell at me either way. But Northern Macedonia / Greek language, Spartans in their prime against a Predator would be kind of a dope ass kind of film. Just like swords and shields and stuff like that, or Gladiator. Let's put him in Gladiator.
How about Troy versus Brad Pitt? Predator
it's too pretty.
Brad Pitt.
In that movie, he's way too pretty to. Just putting him in a river runs through it. Why don't you? Come on, give me a break.
And again, I think we're not talking about the film. I think we're talking about just a period piece that would make sense. Yeah, that's what I would do. Okay, John, where can they? So, needless to say, we all say watch the movie. Yeah. If you've been through this review,
wait a minute.
Yeah,
Stu.
Yeah,
they're saying that this is the second best Predator movie. It's not just one person. There's been a lot of reviews.
Yes,
that are saying that this is the second best. How do we not give our thoughts on whether that's correct?
I thought that was a given, but
okay. Well,
all right, Rob.
You got John. So
John doesn't count. John gives everything a 10, but John, fine. Where does Prey rank in your? Because if you're saying Predator 2 is the best one, then what's number 2?
And then Predator 2, Predator 1, and then Prey.
Okay.
All right. Until I rewatch it, and then I'm sure it's going to jump to the top after I rewatch it.
What,
Rob? I think we know the answer for you and me. That's why I'm asking.
It's obviously the second best Predator movie out there. Yes.
I
obviously,
see some people ranking it further down though. They'll rank it like somewhere in the middle.
Show me who it is that's doing that.
I'll have to look it up.
at the end of the day, like I think that it depends on what. It's kind of like watching the original Star Wars and watching the trilogy, the new trilogy. It's like, do you want just nothing but balls to the wall action? Watch the later trilogy, like Predator movies, right? You watch Predators which was like another bonkers thing because wasn't it like Robert Rodriguez kind of came up with the pitch of like, we're gonna throw all these people in like a
On a
kind
Predator
of like a Katniss like predator planet, and there could be random soldiers from the world banding together.
The
And,
Hunger Games.
yeah, Hunger Games style. It was a Hunger Games pitch, and then I was like, yeah, they got together. It wasn't bad in theory.
I remember liking it, but I never rewatched it.
That's all that matters, John. Walter Goggins,
Topher Grace.
Topher Grace. There was Danny
There's a
Trejo.
guy as a samurai.
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. Young Mahershala Ali. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was Morpheus. There was Larry Fishburne was in that movie.
Light spoilers. Lawrence Fishburne shows up.
Well, you don't know what's going on. Larry's in it. That's all that matters. But yeah.
I will say though that for those who are very interested in watching any of these movies, thankfully for you, all 7 movies are on.
Everything's on
Disney Plus. So you are more than welcome to go.
Yeah, you click the search and it's right there. Predator collection right away. It's at like the top.
And I don't even identify Alien versus Predator because those movies don't count in my mind. I'm like, no.
Sure,
some people love those. Yeah. I never got into it.
I get it. It's like if you just want an action movie for the sake of an action movie, so be it. But like it's fine. Like it's like it's an act. It's like
they're like the Fast and the Furious of action movies.
There's nothing anything memorable about those films. You go back and like, yeah, I want to rewatch it. It's like it's just kind of in and out. It's like
oh man, drop a Predator in the Fast and the Furious franchise. We missed that opportunity. The Predator in a car. No one's ever fought the Predator with a car.
Predator versus the Men in Black.
No, I think Fast and the Furious cross.
But John, it can't because we know that Vin Diesel can't lose. So there's no way that Vin Diesel could like lose the Predator. So what's the point? They'll
team up in the end. That's ultimately what happens to every Fast and Furious bad guy. They team up.
The only time these movies make sense is because you have to feel like your main character is being threatened, like a threat to die. And Vin Diesel will never.
Not according to Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel will never get hurt. So it is what it is. John, where can they find you on the internet in the desert of the real?
Yeah, so follow us online, Heroes World Online, Facebook, Instagram, and the YouTube. That's our most active. Our most active is the Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to see all the latest things coming out, we post them all there, and you can message us through there as well. If you want to come see us in the Desert of the Real, it's 8601 Warden Avenue in Markham, Ontario. We have the brand new Predator #1 comic book in stock. It just came out the week of the release of this movie. So perfect timing, Marvel. It's Marvel's first Predator series. It actually features the Predator having the tables turned on him, where someone is hunting predators for killing their family. So it's kind of a neat little spin on things, and it's a really great looking book. So come check it out.
Rob, what's going on the Sidekick Show this week?
Well, John has already tipped his hat. This Monday night, 8:15 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, we are going back to 1990 and rewatching Predator 2. The
best Predator movie,
classic, most forgettable Predator movie out there. That John has now.
I did not remember anything that happened, by the way.
So I'm really looking forward to Monday trying to see him explain this one. But why don't you join me, everybody, and join John, and let's all make fun of him together. And you can do so in the chat. That's Monday night live, 8:15 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
Yes, and as the lessons we've learned from Predator, if it bleeds, we can kill it. So thank you all for being here with us today. Have a good one. Be safe out there. See you all later.
Thanks, everybody.